We also want to remind all and grateful for being brought through our bringing us through Hurricane Ida and Hurricane Francine. So thank God for that. So I'm gonna hand it over to Clara.
Hey, everybody. My name is Clara Potter, and I am a supervising attorney and clinical assistant professor at Tulane Law School with the environmental law faculty. So, uh, myself and the incredible student attorneys here tonight represent to find community empowerment on the permitting actions related to St. Charles Peak Fuels. So, I'm going to hand it over to the students who are really proud of each other and doing the hard work of student attorneys on this case. But thanks for having us back. We're excited to be here tonight. And I just want to say at the outset, this should be, if you have questions at any point during your presentation, feel free to raise your hand, chime in. We want this to be conversational and certainly want to hear about what's been concerning you. So I'm going to hand it over for the students and let them talk a little bit about his disability.
Hi, I'm Bella Maisted. I am in my third and last year of law school at Tulane. I'm in my third year of law school at Tulane. I am returning to the clinic. I work last semester on the IMTT law case, but now I'm working on the IMTT base. I'm very excited to be here. It's a nice to meet you.
Hi everyone. My name is Alejandra Rodriguez. Some of you may know me. I was here last presentation as well. So I'm a 3L. I'm a returning student on the case. I'm from Pasquotation, Mississippi. So, on the Gulf Coast near here. And I'm really excited to be back and working with y'all.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ali Rie. I'm from Church Point, Louisiana. I'm a new student in clinic. It's also my third year in law school. And I'm really excited to be part of this scheme to be all be here tonight. So yeah, let's see the I came up the papers.
I keep what I say, these students started school a week ago, so they're really hitting the ground running and are excited to close this, please.
So Alejandra and I would be presenting about St. Charles and Rule's proposed ammonia facility. And then we're going to talk about the issues related to that and any things that all the work that hasn't done by the okay. What is a blue ammonia facility? The proposed facility to be built here would be a chemical plant that would be producing ammonia. Ammonia is a colorless but strong-smelling gas that's frequently used in fertilizers and common household items like Lindex. The blue in blue ammonia refers to the use of fossil fuel feedstock with carbon capture and storage. The carbon capture and storage process refers to where CO2 is captured, compressed, and should be a pipeline to a deep underground injection well. We describe this as a new technology because it's never been the carbon capture and storage has never been used on facility of this height and scale before. So I was really inspired. So this image is from St. Charles Peak Fuels coastal use permit application. The area highlighted in yellow is a proposed site for this facility. You can see here the existing IMTT facility. And then this gray line that crosses across the Mississippi is the proposed area for the CO2 pipe work that would be necessary to operate this facility. This is another image from the coastal use permit application. And these, like, this area right here shows where the ammonia tanks would be for the storage of the ammonia. And you can see, I'm going to show all of you know, this area is wetlands, swamp, sandy water. So there's problems with filling that. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. And again, that dash gray line across the Mississippi is the pipeline. So this facility would have both human health and environmental impacts. St. Charles Peak Fuels has applied for a permit that would allow them to emit up to or around 59 tons of ammonia per year which would designate them as a major source of ammonia. And this facility would require over 180 acres of wetlands be filled, which would again create farmwater and floodwater impacts here, which is area, as you all already struggles with flooding. Ammonia itself has risks. It's a toxic flammable gas. It's explosive when mixed with air, has a strong and unpleasant odor, and high levels of exposure to this can lead to immediate and severe lung damage. As well, you can also have impacts to your health over a long term, though some ammonia which cause problems. Other concerns related to this facility include proximity to homes. Just like the IMTT facility, it would be extremely close to the Gulf here, and it would contribute to the exacerbate existing pollution problems. Ammonia releases, as we discussed, can be problematic in short-term and long-term effects. And the CO2 pipeline, which is necessary to operate this facility, can lead to very dangerous effects if there's a pipeline rupture or leak.
Hi everyone. So the Central Steam Fuels to build ammonia tank. Central Steam Fuels requires 3 permits in order to operate. So it needs all 3 of them. One is the coastal use permit from the Department of Energy and Natural Resources. The second one is the Clean Water Act Section 404 permit, and this is from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And lastly, they need an air permit from the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. Now I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about the work that the clinic has done so far in the past years, working against St. Charles Steam Fuels. So the comments here were submitted for the coastal use permit. So in April 2024, the clinic submitted the comment about how this permit violates the coastal use permit guidelines because the infrastructure facility would be built on wetlands. In September of 2024, St. Charles Steam Fuels we argue that it presented a substantially inadequate application or the coastal use permit due to the expert opinion, the fact that there are better alternative sites, the fact that St. Charles Steam Fuels had incomplete technology details, and the fact that Elkville has historic community significance. In April 2025, we also submitted a supplemental comment that alerted the agency of the potential risk with carbon capture infrastructure. And the community has the right to know this information. St. Charles Steam Fuels has not given us this information on it. Now onto the comments that was submitted for wetlands. So for the comments submitted to the Army Corps for the 404 wetlands permit. So in January of 2024, it then spoke about how this project was not in public interest of the community and that it would adversely affect wetland and floor flooding management capacity. In August 2024, we included enough comments that reiterated the historical significance of the community, as well as the fact that there is a portion of the land where they want to build the ammonia tank that is protected. And so we believe that this should not be developed. In January 2025, we submitted another comment about the hydraulic modification impact analysis, that it was inadequate and it did not accurately model flooding and stormwater impacts from the project. The Corps has to comply with the National Historic Preservation Act and the fact that Elkville is a historically significant community. And we also raised the issue that there needs to be more serious considerations with the core of alternative sites or the ammonia tank. In April of 2025, we alerted the Corps of potentially related carbon capture and infrastructure issues. As I said before, St. Charles Steam Fuels has still not given us that information. And so the application is incomplete. Now for the air permits, the last permit in December of 2023, we expressed concern on whether St. Charles Clean Fuel was improperly tallying emissions for purposes of avoiding the major source threshold of the Clean Air Act and the concerns about the impacts of emission, especially ammonia in Elkinsville. In December of 2024, we had a hydrologist expert analyze at St. Charles Clean Fuel likely underestimated the amount of ammonia emissions and criteria pollutant emissions that ammonia tank would emit, and that we considered that, and the expert considered that it would likely be a major source rather than a minor source. We also stated that this would be a violation of the public trust doctrine to grant this permit because of the significant impacts to the environment and Elkinsville. Now I'm going to pass it to Natalie. Let's talk about the recusal.
So in September of 2024, there was a scheduled EQ public hearing. Many of you were probably in a ring when it's happening. That it was requested prior to the meeting that it be moved to a bigger facility that would respond better to the amount of people that were expected to show up. They refused to deny doing so. And the fire marshal shut the hearing down. And following that, DEQ made so-called statements that suggested their bias against the community and in favor of its permit. So the clinic submitted in November of 2024, the clinic submitted a recusal motion to recuse the agency or DEQ from being able to make a decision on this permit. All that's been done so far is that this isn't submitted and hasn't made a decision on whether or not DEQ will be recused, but
Within the comments that we wrote, one of the things that we consider is the public trust doctrine. So what the public trust doctrine is, it is enshrined in the Louisiana Constitution as something that state agencies must consider whenever they're making any type of decision that is going to impact the environment or the community. And so these are the questions that LDEQ must consider. LDEQ must consider, one, has the facility avoided adverse environmental impacts to the maximum extent possible? 2, do the social and economic benefits outweigh the environmental costs? And 3, are there alternative projects, alternative sites, and or mitigation measures that will harm the environment less? This is really important to consider whenever you guys are writing your own public comments, to consider these questions, because it is the state agency's duty in order to consider these factors whenever they're deciding to approve or deny any comments.
Let me take you to this. It's my ideas to hit it in the background. You can take time right now to take a picture of this particular slide that's important for us to put on our comments about the permit that IMTT is trying to get. See. Also, some rewrite comments we should try to address these 3 issues and in one strategy sign.
Yeah, oh yeah, Bella will comment that more about that. How do your comment more specific?
Questions. Another question. Regarding how better. Really good PR. I want as a question about what Natalie was speaking and at the last, I want to be hearing whether it was clearly indicated that LGBT was biased in their any. So are they a really good player in it? We're looking at this line, how where hair it makes. So when you ask what interview, who would be if that were that first, and who would be intermediate at that point if they were to be the
That's a great question. There haven't been very many successful recusal motions brought against LDEQ historically, but it would have to be a neutral third party that the agency get points to preside over the permit decision. LDEQ hasn't made any decision about that recusal motion yet, so we know where the agency stands on that issue. Actually, since we submitted the recusal motion, LDEQ has seen that the secretary client was Secretary Aurelia Doctrine, which is no longer with the agency, and so we don't actually really know who he would keep or take that decision. or belabor the point as a equal party to recycle with the ocean.
Aye.
Can you say, yes, can you say Canay in which neighborhood it's on?
One in case that hopeful.
People Mac to the
Okay.
People Mac. First what?
Council with the recreate spirit calls table with the year buzz the day above all the rap now. They'll tell everybody to watch praise to the people hike to you. Also I want to say well every day what they are there not then. The light came out whereas about for afterwards I wish you left this show and good boy that a good war and yeah coffee. Then I start with we are talking about who would eat you. You try to have to stay away. Because the guy do that do over. They don't even know what's in it. What's in those things? Just like you know what's benign to picture. So DEQ sale box. Our own assistance areas. Our cross I'm on the hand the sense able handle it all.
When you bake our harmful and our other people with this pass through on it. Is you really social, economic benefit power
Environmental costs. How much do you put on a price tag on these people's life and their kids' first? Second off, I know that added compensation. I thank you for the right video. Snake talk about my bond, talk on the back door. We are Cajun peoples. We don't have to live. We don't how to survive. When disaster, the teeth take on hurricane, not three people will breathe out. We don't have to feel pain or mad. We can't back to go. This man who see this animal goes out get rat, a squirrel, a deer. The deer ate the leaves. What's wrong with the deer? They don't know. We are. So if all DQ, I go, that will can't be so. And if so that current people in my power probably should know like it's happened. And very much that was that rule in this one. You won't fight the order. They take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, we definitely share those concerns and about the impacts to the environment. I just want to add on the IMTT tank piece. Bella will be presenting on IMTT next, and she has a graphic to show you all what's in the tanks and where they are on the site. That you even had a little bit more information about what's actually over there. Hopefully after this meeting. So, yeah, yeah. Says deep up that set
The I'm not gonna hold that shop to that effects on.
where they release the labs at 4 o'clock or is DDQ anybody else up at them come
On speak.
I have another question before we keep going through questions.
Please put the microphone right to the mouth and still speak up because the only speaker we have is the one up close. Of this, I just was there's some information that I will privy to about what is indicate in the text that he keeps surviving to you, but I'll look at your presentation. Could be already be aware of it, but if not, I had more bio here, and I'd be sure it was being.
Thank you. If you guys request. So, where are we now? So right now, as I was saying before, so there's 3 permits that St. Charles Clean Fuels needs to operate, and we're still way behind the decision of all 3 of those permit positions. So right now we don't know, but as soon as we know, we're gonna let y'all know. So even if one of those permits is rejected, then that means that St. Charles Clean Fuel cannot build a ammonia tank. So we're waiting, hoping that these permits all are rejected. However, if these permits are approved, then the next steps to the clinic is that we will discuss next steps and pathways forward with profound community and government and the potentials that challenge these permits. Now we're going to talk about IMTT Facility. I'll pass the deadline. Question.
That's a very couple of questions before I start on psychotactile.
On Burley. You can't hurt to school, you gotta go and get up here.
There was three agencies that different state agencies that that St. Charles Springfield needs to spoker for this department, and that LDNR, LDEQ, and 4. Dr. Gore. Yes.
So, are these state or the federal or
2 are state, LD in New York and LDEQ are state, and the US or that is federal.
I develop wanted to make lanterns.
No, that's a step
Of no, there's something like people trust. One about politics. Because they used to call it pollination, called rabble. Now they call it pollination. This word could really could me pollinate junction. Okay, they if this a food. I mean, put that right on, but if it's something that's gonna hurt people, I put it in therapy backwards. Because that way will never be used. You cannot do it for anything be wrongness or die. I'll work with them as I told everybody get before. For the last 40 years, I was seriously. I work on refrigeration. Well, I work on refrigeration, which only have real in the cone. I'm little consent, but it's gonna go. I'm the first thing I'll see some of my friends die. Little pa, one pa. Doing health and justice stuff. My bleach ammonia and bleach together and it's smear. That's what you do. And if they approve this, somebody will involve. Thanksgiving for 11th.
And I just want to add that if anybody wants to see it, so the students mentioned the permits and the many comments that the clinic submitted over the past year and a half with many expert reports attached. All that's on a public record, and we're happy to share that with anybody who wants more information and wants to look at the comments and be more closely. We can send any of that to the log either by email or you can roll up with Gabriel and Nikki at you. But those are much more detailed accounts of the kinds of issues that we're seeing the birds, just in case anybody wants to see it in writing and have more of the expert report actually before that.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Joseph Filco. I live in Ormond. I had a question. Is it normal for these agencies to take so long to respond? I know some of these permits are quite long, but to respond to the St. Charles Swing Fuels permits?
Yes, I think that it's there's no rhyme or reason or rhyme or reason is the right term. I think there's no set task rule. Sometimes these things happen more quickly. Sometimes they take longer. I'd say, what we can say about this set of permits is that all the materials have been submitted, all the hearings have been had, all of the notice and comment periods have passed. So there's nothing at this point standing between. There are no steps left until the permits could be granted. So that's why we're checking every single day. We check and look for the permits and let y'all know as soon as we hear anything. But it has been a long time. I'll say that.
I know some of the agencies, like U.S. Army Board of Engineers, have been pressured by federal level to expedite, especially energy emergency type permits. Do you know if that's had any effect on these? I mean, since it seems like they haven't been granted yet, and that probably would exceed what emergency permit allocations deem. I assume it has, but do you know if that has had any effect on these permits?
We haven't seen any signs from the Army Corps that the Corps permit has been categorized as part of the energy emergency category of permits. And in part, that's because this ammonia from the facility, it's not clear, although they call themselves St. John's fuels, it's not totally clear if this ammonia is going to be used as a fuel or as fertilizer or as something else. So but you haven't seen it explicitly be categorized as part of the energy emergency.
During the OCA meeting, the Ormond Civic Association meeting, I believe they said it was being sold. Do you remember which European country is buying it? I have a recording of it, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But at the meeting, Baguli and his counterparts said that it was going to be sold to a country in Europe. What's going to be sold? Oh, the resulting ammonia. So it's not even for U.S. use. Copenhagen, yeah, Japan,
Asia.
Oh, Asia?
It's to Asia and perhaps other places, and I'm not sure, but I did hear them say Asia.
Yeah, it also discussed putting in working with shipping companies to fuel shipping container vessels, and it's like the ammonia would actually be the fuel burn or whatever.
But it's not a very efficient fuel.
Yeah, it's what Derek said. You have a level question behind you. Please state your name and which area you're from, please.
My name is Believe My name is Rosemary Gray, and I live right here in San Rose on 4th Street. I'm on the Wetlands. I had an opportunity to meet with St. Charles Buies. And the question was, where was the stuff going to ammonia? I asked them a question was it being prepared for war? And it kind of disturbs the people. But they did not deny it. They didn't deny it. Okay. So we gotta get prepared for what's coming. Because it's coming. You gotta be prepared, seriously. I've also met with several. I was surprised that I started getting on his own calls. But it was with CAPS and IMTT. I had an opportunity to tour the facility, and to my surprise, I didn't see how not one worker. So when I questioned why somebody was late at that time of day, and they tried to explain that there's like 8 guys that work in that's the time that we smell the stage. A whole facility, and you don't see anybody. Something's wrong with that. And look, I'm not really taking my job from IMTT because I understand everybody's having to live. IMTT is there. And I got to think that they are making some strides at trying to face this domestic areas. But then we should not ever let the whole shadow or we deal with this ammonia in our facility. We need not to forget that. IMTT is not run by, because I heard some rumors that IMTT is going to buy the land as the next thing. Forget it, because that's not going to happen. They've already built that plane to us. I asked some questions, and I'm still asking questions that the St. Charles Buies had not, answered yet. You invited me to your facility, I asked these questions, I expressed personality. Okay? And I'm waiting on these answers, and as soon as I find out well it airs, I promise I'll bring it back to you guys. Thank you.
Let me say this, in regards to them buying out the community, they're not going to give you or offer you case value for your property. Remember that.
Nope. Should I say something about that? They're not offering anything. That is a question, point blank. Will they at least do an offer? I asked them if they were to offer. That's not on the table. That is not on the table. So no ever think that they're going to even offer you all that be eaten out in the 10,000 pays so they can take away. Yeah. That's business. That's the stuff too. You know?
Well, this is the last one, and then we're gonna pass it back to Tulane so they can, finish their presentation.
Ryan Price. I live in Riverbend Estates. My question is, did you say that a period has passed where we could make any comments or anything, or are we still able to submit our opposition to LDEQ or EY the waiting process? And I don't know if it has anything to do with the United Things wrong, because I know that the prior director of LDEQ left, right, with the board center. So that may have something to do with this call process, or they made these ways to see how long it was stalled till we forget about it.
Great question about whether or not it's too late to continue to submit comments for St. Charles Clean Fuels. So Bill is going to talk about there's an open notice and comment period right now for IMTT. But for St. Charles Clean Fuels, technically the notice and comment periods have ended, but you can always submit comments to LDEQ, even outside of the notice and comment period. And I think it's important, if you're opposed to the facility, you can still submit your opposition to LDEQ. It will go in the online record associated with this, with the facility. The agency interest number for St. Charles Clean Fuels, the AI number, which is how you affiliate your comment with a facility, is 236110. And I can repeat that later if you want to be making a comment on St. Charles Clean Fuels. So it's not an active notice and comment period right now. Legally, the agency is required to consider things only really during the notice and comment period, but you can still submit your opposition really at any time. Yeah. Okay. Maybe
Just hold it for us. Let them finish, and then we're gonna come back to some questions. Thank you, Rex.
Okay, hi guys. I will be presenting on the IMTT facility. So I'm gonna kind of talk through the permit that is pending or at this minute and some issues that we have seen with it, as well as I'm gonna talk through the comment process and what you write a comment on, how you comment, and then also how to bring any issues to LDEQ about ASIS facility. Okay, so first, the permit at issue is a Title V renewal and revision permit. This is required for all major sources of criteria pollutants under the Clean Air Act. And renewal is required every 5 years. For Title V permits, public notice and comment periods are necessary. They have to hold them. And the deadline for this public comment is Wednesday, September 10th. Like I said, I am going to talk more about comments later on presentation, so I just wanted to give you guys that date to be by. That is the deadline for submitting your comments. Okay, so first, if you want to look at the actual application, you can go on LDEQ's website. I have the link on the screen. You want to take a driven or anything, and then it'll bring up like the little box, and you put in the AI number, like whatever is that, or ITT is OR885, and then you're looking for this document ID. You can go to the next page. It's a screenshot. Okay, so this is what's going to come up when you put in AI number 4885, and you're looking for this permit right here. It's 396 pages. That might be the easiest way to find it, but you can also filter out. It's under permits, air quality, and the number on the left will correspond to number. So just to take a look at the permit, it is a major source of SN2, NO2, carbon monoxide, and volatile organic compounds. So you can see here, these are the changes because this is a renewal of the permit and like a revision. And so we can see some of them are going up and some of them are going down, but this does not necessarily translate even if it says the level is going down, that doesn't necessarily mean that there will be less volatile compounds, in this case, being emitted, because these are just the amounts that they're permitted to emit. So if they were already emitting below the permitted levels, then they may just be requesting that a lower value so it looks more like it's went down. So just something to as you can see, it is also a pretty large increase in ammonia, which is not surprising, and also pretty high levels of hexane, which causes nervous system issues, as well as naphthalene. You can see here, which it is a carcinogen, so that's particularly concerning. IMTT is permitted to emit 40 air toxics under this permit, which vary in amount and toxicity. And they have modeled 11 of these air toxics, but their modeling was last done in 2010. Modeling is really important because it predicts where the air is going to, or where the toxins are going to disperse in the air and how they're going to work with existing pollution, and pollution from surrounding facilities or other like emitters of toxins. So that's really important, and that's something that they have not been doing anytime recently. Okay, also, I think this is similar to what you were saying about the graphic you have. Is probably very similar to this. So this graphic was created by Dr. Kimberly Terrell, who UCR sound scientist for the clinic, and she's now working for the Environmental Integrity Project. The IMTT has claimed that a majority of the products stored at the facility in St. Rose are non-toxic. But this is really misleading because they're basing this off of the number of tanks that store each product instead of the actual volume of each product present at the facility. So as you can see from the graphic, 62% are petroleum products. So a majority are petroleum products, and then there's other toxics, 10%, and alcohols, 11%. Only 70%, so very much a minority of the products are actually non-toxic. And then this is what we were talking about earlier. This is a site map which shows the breakdown of the different products stored. So as you can see, I don't know if you can read it from back there, but the yellow is petroleum, this dark yellow, and then the bright yellow is ammonia. So this is the proposed ammonia tanks that would be coming from St. Charles Clean Fuels. And then all these tiny little blue tanks are all non-toxic. So that's where they're getting the point of most or majority of the products stored are non-toxics, is because the majority of the tanks store non-toxics, but only because the non-toxic tanks are tiny. And clearly, as you can see, the yellow tanks that store petroleum products are carrying much larger volumes of those toxins. Okay, so next, I'm sure most of you know this, but the relationship between IMTT and St. Charles Clean Fuels. Among other products, IMTT's St. Rose facility will store ammonia that is produced at the St. Charles Clean Fuels plant. So that is, as you can see on the project map that they also showed in their presentation, it's this backlot behind IMTT that they are wanting to build a plant, and then as you saw in the last graphic, those bright yellow tanks with a proposed ammonium storage. And the lot is owned by IMTT for the proposed plant and will be leased by St. Charles Clean Fuels. Okay, so just to go over some issues that we've already flagged with the permit. One, niche in this, that IMTT has not conducted updated air modeling to show the compliance with the Clean Air Act. So as I said, under the Clean Air Act, this facility is a major source, which means that they have to adhere to certain requirements, including monitoring and implementation requirements. And they have not shown compliance with ambient air standards because they have not modeled the 1 hour standards of nitrogen dioxide and sulfur dioxide, even though those standards have been set for over 15 years, so they are not recent. This is the standard that protects people that live and work in the area. The 1 hour standard is so important to model because that's showing peak concentrations from emitting sources. So when you're looking at the annual limits that they have, that can be an average over the course of the year. So maybe some days they're not emitting as much, but then there might be other days or periods of time during the day, like you said, sometimes at night, where they're having these really, really high levels of emissions, and those can cause really acute health effects for people, especially that are high risk, like asthmatics and other people with respiratory issues. So that is a really large concern. It's something they have not addressed because they have not modeled IDA 1. They did model the 1 hour standard of sulfur dioxide. But again, that was only in 2000, or no, they did the 3 hour standard, sorry, for sulfur dioxide. And when that was converted, it would be the equivalent of 4 times over the limit of the 1 hour standard. So, and that was again from 2010. This is especially important because with nitrogen dioxide in particular, it can cause a lot of adverse health effects, but also there's a lot of accumulation from other sources as well. And a lot of people that live in the community work or go to school or live in areas that are also high emissions from other things other than the facility. And so those compounded effects can be really severe. St. Rose is in the 91st percentile in Louisiana and 97th nationally for air toxics and cancer risks. In the 93rd percentile in Louisiana and 91st nationally for air toxics respiratory hazard index. And in the 81st percentile in Louisiana and 89th nationally for toxic releases to air. And ITT is permitted under this permit to emit 650 tons of nitrogen dioxide per year. Another issue that we had flagged is the need for air monitoring at the site. So I think many of you already know that IMTT-St. Facility used to have an EPA level air monitor at the site, which was removed, and they have not yet installed a new air monitor. In their 2022 air monitoring network plan, LDEQ actually emphasized how important air monitoring is and how crucial that is to protecting the surrounding communities and make sure that continuous air monitoring is occurring and they are to ensure compliance with the permits. And despite this, they have removed the air monitor and not installed a new one. So that is definitely a really big issue with this permit as of now.
So,
Yes.
well, what does that mean for our community so that we all know, like in layman's terms, what does that mean for us in terms of our protection?
I would say it's very important because for purposes of holding them accountable and knowing what's going on. So, I mean, even in the state that the permit's in, even if they're following the guidelines of the permit, I mean, we don't feel that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Let's say, yeah, I will give it to you. I don't know. I don't want to say wait. So,
Yeah, like Bella was saying, I think monitoring is really important to actually have a check on what's being released. But a permit says what they're allowed to release, and a monitor tells you what's actually being released. So that's why having monitoring is so important, and why having an LDEQ approved monitor is so important, because LDEQ trusts the data coming from its own monitors. And so, we think that's the air monitor, like Bella said. DEQ acknowledged the importance of having an air monitor in St. Rose in particular in its 2022 air monitoring network plan. And yet there's been no move to replace that monitor. And so there's really no way to tell without a monitor, exactly what's going on in the air. Modeling is an estimate, and the permit says what they're allowed to emit, but the monitor is what actually shows you what's happening on the ground. So does that help clarify?
It does. So a lot of the chemicals that are emitted by IMTT, they're allowed to emit. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
So I want to highlight this is I want everyone to realize that we have a major issue here.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everyone hears this. They're allowed to emit
chemicals that are smelling. By LDEQ, they're allowed. Right? So,
Yeah, I guess that
what they're reporting without what IMTT reports. What they're reporting is what is allowed by LDEQ. And there are no community monitors, all right, to monitor the air that we're breathing.
So they straight call ball things lot, but we're not. But if it does,
Yeah, what's got you recommending?
know what?
Baby.
I want to clear out. I want to be clear. We're not saying that IMTT is lying or that they are misspeaking. But these just want to underscore that the purpose of a monitor and why we thought it was important to request a monitor back in the community is because it just provides it's a way to actually see what's going on. And so that's one of the things we think is important that the LDEQ really needs to be thinking seriously about when they're reevaluating this permit. So
Well, want to ask you why isn't there yet? If you there now, right? But
Okay, let's take a couple more.
yeah, okay, we've already had problems with LDEQ. Y'all know that, right? So how are they to regulate this? I mean, they're the ones that are in charge. Are they actually the ones that are in charge?
yeah, so this is a year permit. LDEQ is responsible for approving the environment and for ensuring that the companies are complying with their permits. Bella's going to get into in a little bit the process for making complaints to LDEQ. I know a lot of y'all have been making complaints to LDEQ. They are required to follow up. They have been following up, and I know that a lot of people feel frustrated that nothing is being done, but it's so important to keep making those complaints because the more you build the record, the more you start holding the agency to their duties. And part of that is also the follow-up notes and commentary to remake those.
Yeah, but how do we do that when, okay, at the meeting, you know what happened after that? They put out a press release and that we were trying to hold up the very spring here in St. Charles Parish. So that's misleading, and not just misleading. They actually were just actually saying to the St. Charles Clean Skills, okay, we got your back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I guess it's corruption.
Let's pass it. That's why we filed which year to recuse the agency on that St. Charles King Schools permit.
Thank remarks.
Talking about we aren't must. You need to introduce yourself. So where you're from? My name is Wendy Sower, and I'm from Blue Ridge, which is right across the river from this, and it's gonna feel reattached to what they're gonna feel inside. So they want to build. But the thing that I wanted to bring up was that no one died. At least a couple of months ago, was an article about what IMTT was going to donate in their field. I guess their magnanimous feeling of giving. They were going to donate air monitors to St. Rose. And they never were very specific about what kind of air monitors there were, to what they were going to test. They were just very patting themselves on the back. Like, we're going to do this for y'all. Has any more come out of that? Have y'all heard anything about these air monitors? Yeah. That they're going to donate. Okay. Oh, do you want to do that? No, maybe. You might know. Oh, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, I thought you meant the fall for that stuff. Just change guests.
We haven't heard anything else about it. We know that the IMTT has partnered with Louisiana Environmental Action Network, an organization that started out helping us here with our plight with these chemicals coming out of homes. So the last thing we heard is that they're working on it. One of the monitors is supposed to come here at this church, and then another one in Barcelona. So we're looking to get monitors through who's it, Environmental Integrity Project. Yes. So we're trying to Dr. Kimberly Tell is working on getting 2 monitors that's actually going to detect specific chemicals. The one that's being proposed by IMTT and Lean is going to capture and show the results of total VOCs, volatile organic compound. So we don't know exactly which chemicals are coming from here. IMTT, they know which chemicals they are releasing, but they don't want us to know. So that monitor is just going to say, oh yeah, you're getting chemicals. Well, we know that. We want to know exactly which chemicals. So I was able to get some information from monitors, some canisters, and detected lots of different horrible chemicals I've shared here, a lot of carcinogens. And now it's against the law for us to share this information. It's now against the law for me to share specific information that I share in these meetings. You can't do it now. Because our governor, am I right? Swat. Football stuff. No.
There was a law passed last year in Louisiana called CAMRA, the Community Air Monitoring Reliability Act, that makes it unlawful to disseminate information data from air monitors that don't meet a host of requirements under the regulation. The law makes it quite difficult to share air monitoring data that doesn't come from a federal or state monitor. And federal and state monitors are extremely expensive. They often run, 6 figures, $150,000 for these monitors. So community air sensors, a lot of them probably wouldn't meet the requirements of this act. And the law is being litigated right now by the Environmental Integrity Project. The Environmental Law Planning isn't involved in that lawsuit, and frankly, we haven't been as close to this issue as a lot of other people have. So I don't really want to speak for the status of that law or the lawsuit, but just know that there has been an effort to kind of make certain community air monitoring efforts make it so that the data from those efforts can't really be shared in a lot of contexts.
Plus, if that's it, then fun. Halfway people. They want to keep up from What? She's saying that
Turn it off. You turn it off. That's so.
she say that she wants to know what chemicals are in the air that's on in her.
Whether the state or be the door or not.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's difficult to say with any degree of certainty. I think, the IMTT reports everything that they emit. And so you can go on LDEQ's website and look up IMTT's own reporting. But in terms of knowing through monitoring, through state or federal grade monitors, there is no monitoring. Not at the IMTT site anymore, not in this immediate vicinity. So, knowing what's in the air through publicly available monitoring data is not possible right now, which I realize is extremely frustrating and concerning. And it's a reason we think should be reminding the agency that if that's something you want, remind the agency. And we think it's something that is important to be asking for. So, yeah.
And we have one more here. Scott, introduce yourself, please.
Scott used to be all science director. I'll get off. Work from Texas of Florida. We are, pertinent to my to the post. The approval is permit. We're also part of the Green Army, pushing fence line monitoring legislation. So the laser technology that would detect over 90% of the hazardous chemicals emitted by IMTT, but also the potential other plant, CPROX, cubes. So that technology is something that we believe is necessary across the state, and here we have an opportunity to really make that point. I know we all feel that the companies lie to us, and the lawyers are going to tell you that you can't say that or you can be sued for defamation. That's right. And that is the substance of this law. We support communities in Westlake that are establishing affordable air monitors. And we've talked with environmental integrity and other attorneys on that as a First Amendment challenge. And as those of Westlake are like, well, damn it. If they want to sue us for just us learning about what's in the air, let them sue us. And there are attorneys defending those communities in Westlake that are monitoring air. So just so that there is this law, there are communities in Louisiana fighting it because we're not part of that litigation, but I do think there are communities in Louisiana and brought up the opinion they should have let this law shield that. Maybe this law is just had to scare them and say, oh yeah, come on, sue us for defamation for monitoring our own hair. So there are people saying up against that, and the Green Army are continuing to push for independent fence line monitoring. I will say that when we've learned a lot about our self-reporting system. The whole Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act in the United States, the companies report to the government. And I do mostly oil spills as healthy dog who work a lot in the ocean. With oil spills, you tend to see that when we go back and independently evaluate how big those oil spills are, an independent evaluation will say that usually the companies are underreporting by a factor of 10. So if they said it was 1 barrel on average or thousands and thousands of reports, it actually was 10 barrels. You see similar things about methane reports from oil platforms. A company will report, we're polluting at the rate of 10 somethings, with on average, the independent review will say 100. So we know that in general, self-reporting is insufficient. Usually it's by a factor of 10. But yeah, we can't say, because without the specific independent analysis of this case, we can't say that IAT in particular is fitting. But we know in general, the self-reporting system is insufficient. And that's why we want some good fence line monitoring out of this permit, or LDEQ should not issue. Sure. So that's all.
Thank you. Okay, I might keep going on mine. So another point to be flagged was that LDEQ's approval of the proposed permit, we believe, would violate the public trust. So we touched on this earlier in the presentation when they were speaking, but LDEQ is required to consider the public trust factors in its approval or denial. So it has to look at adverse environmental effects, alternate inverse sites, mitigating measures, and whether the benefits outweigh the environmental costs. And we do not feel that. Okay, also cumulative impacts research. This was done by Dr. Kimberly Terrell, who was our staff scientist for the clinic. She completed a cumulative risk analysis for IMTT based on their predicted concentrations of 5 carcinogens at the St. Rose plant in 2010. And she found of all those 5 carcinogens combined, a cumulative cancer risk is 1 in 310. Which means that for each of these carcinogens, there's a certain level of risk that is associated with that carcinogen. So over, I believe, a 70-year period, if a person is exposed to that at a consistent level for that amount of time, what is the increased risk that they will have to develop cancer? And then when you have multiple carcinogens on top of each other, that's going to be cumulative. So obviously your risk is going to go up when you have all these interacting factors. The threshold is 1 in 10,000. So under EPA's guidelines, that is what is considered the upper limit of acceptable risk. Their target is 1 in 1 million for what is most protective, but the lowest level that is acceptable for EPA is 1 in 10,000. And just for yeast carcinogens alone that are from the IMTT facility, not even factoring in any other pollutants in the air, any other factors that might increase cancer risk, just from these 5 in the facility is 1 in 310, which is incredibly high. You can see in more detail in this table all the individual risks for the 5 carcinogens, and then combine, you get the 1 in 310. Okay, so moving on to public comments. Okay, so as I stated, the public comment deadline for this permit is Wednesday, September 10th. So week after next, it's coming up. This is so important because we need to build a public record. So even if you've already submitted comments, those were for the St. Charles Clean Fuels facilities. So if you want to hear your voice heard on the IMTT issue, make sure that you submit a comment specifically for IMTT, which is what I walked through at the end of the presentation with AI number of 485. There has already been sets of harmful showing. Clara and I were just on the portal looking at all the comments that you guys have already submitted, and that's great to see. But if we can get even more, that would be amazing, because the more requests that there are for a public hearing, that is probably going to increase the chances that you get one, so you can have your voice heard. So please make sure if you comment to request a public hearing as well. So things to comment on, talk about how this facility affects you. You guys are the experts on this. You're the ones who are living with it and have been living with the adverse impacts of this facility for so long, and you will be the ones who are experiencing all the things that we've touched on if they are able to do these modifications. So focus on what is most important to you. You can talk about how you feel about the facility and why, how it's going to impact your life, your health. If you live near a facility, that is a great thing to include in your comments. Specifically, issues pertaining to air quality. So anything with odors, with respiratory issues, anything like that is going to be especially persuasive for this comment in particular, because LDEQ is reviewing, as I said earlier, a Title V permit, which is under the Clean Air Act. So any air-related issues, super important. And then, as I said, please ask for a hearing as well. Some specific examples that you might want to bring up. And if you want to take a picture of the slide, feel free. But existing air pollution and health or quality of life issues. So any health issues that you're already experiencing because of the facility, or like if you're high risk and you want to share that. As I said, specifically respiratory issues are going to be very much affected. So that would be a good thing to include if that affects you. Air quality complaints that you've already made to LDEQ, any industrial incidents or disasters of concern, lower property values, or concern about people moving away because of these impacts, as well as the historical significance of Elkinsville and Zabros. Okay, then my last point that I want to touch on, this is separate from the comment, but this is how to report issues to LDEQ. So when you're having odor issues in the middle of the night, this is what you need to do to report those. You go to LDEQ's website, which is linked here. It's just deq.louisiana.gov. Click About LDEQ, and then Online Incident Reporting, and file a complaint or report an incident. So you can do that online, or you can also call the numbers on the screen from Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. They are required to follow up with you, and they are required to make a record. So even if you contact them over the phone, there will be an electronic record of that, and they are supposed to follow up with you on that report. Okay, a question.
You tell the website your name or how she the fuck
the one at September 10th. Little kid, was it? Oof, soon.
Oh, no, you can't do that. Okay. I have something. I have something in my slide that I can share that Joseph Coco of Destrehan has on his website. Okay, so that help. Yeah, that helps. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's something that I want to share.
Oh, since you can email public participation, I'm gonna pull up the email really quickly. I'm sorry. We should have put this on the slide. Thank for you. I'll pull up the email really quickly for you. But so you can email or you can submit it online. And you can also mail a visible letter in if that's your preference to use mail. There's also a physical address as well. So I'm just gonna pull up this email and read it out to y'all. I'm sorry that was not on the slide. It's okay. Okay, so it's
Hard to find that it's tricky. Um, I'll,
I'll follow. Somebody else should ask. If there's other questions, I'll follow up with y'all in just a second when I find this email. I'm sorry. And I'll read it out to you as soon as I pull it out.
Oh, it's like it's
Yes.
Yeah. So didn't I? Sorry. That's your hand. So did the permit include that they could? Sorry, that IMTT could build more tanks than the 4 which they're proposing in order to store ammonia. I thought I saw something about that. I know they don't have any immediate plans to build more than those 4 tanks, but do you foresee them potentially doing that and this being a even larger build out than?
To my knowledge, I believe there will need permit for those 4, but or DLs other waters. I think it's those 4, but I would need to confirm by looking at the permit itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask regarding the permits. A lot of people have been upset that St. Charles Plain Fuels permit for them producing ammonia was filed separately from IMTT's storing the ammonia because it's very closely tied together. I looked into it a little bit, and it sounds like because they remain operationally independent, that is the correct legal way to do it. Because technically IMTT could refuse to store the ammonia coming from St. Charles Clean Fuels production facility, and technically the production facility from St. Charles Clean Fuels could choose to store or not store their ammonia with IMTT. They're, quote, operationally independent. Does that make sense? Is that the case? Is that the way other permits have been filed, like in Louisiana before? Or like, should we try to hold them accountable for filing these permits separately?
Sure. That's a great question, and it's a question of whether or not the 2 facilities are under common control. It's a kind of complicated legal question with a bit of a tricky analysis, and we addressed that in our St. Charles Clean Fuels air permit comments. And I'd be happy to send those to you if you want to take a look at that. And think that there's arguments on both sides that they're going to argue that they're separate entities, and there's an argument that they could be under common control. And I can share that legal analysis with you, but it's a little bit of a nuanced assessment, actually.
So there's not like a good answer basically for whether this should be 2 permits for 1 permit. It's easy essentially. Some scenarios.
Yeah, I think that's. Oh yes, I think it's a really fact intensive inquiry into just how intertwined they actually are. So
I might be at the jet. Part of the reason because St. Charles Clean Fuels would be considered a tenant organization, so they would operate separately from them. But if, say, for instance, St. Charles Clean Fuels was rejected from putting ammonia back here, they could tentatively put it somewhere else in another flag or still ship ammonia here, because that's the same thing IMTT did with methanol when I was at Cornerstone. Of course, it's going to shut their methanol production down. did they still store better though? For the companies that was shipping it in. So they kind of made some independently, but
Well, so just quickly before we get to the next question, I wanted to say that I back on the email and I'm sorry it was still on the word. So if folks want to get a kind of figure out, I can read it to you. I know that Kimbrell said she also has a link to Joseph's website and there's a way to comment easily from there as well. So follow up with Kimbrell about that. That's an incredible resource. Y'all have been doing an amazing job getting comments on the site. But if you just want to email them directly, it's DEQ.publicnotices@la.gov. So that's DEQ.public, PUBLIC, notices, NOTICES @la.gov.
And they would have to mention the AI number, right?
Oh yeah, and I'm sorry, the AI number is 4885. Yeah.
We have a question right behind you. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, my name's Lisa Lentini. I live here in St. Rose. I'm wondering, do y'all have any idea what type of radius would be affected by these chemicals? Like a 1 mile radius? I mean, to how endangered is Dastrahan and Lully? Obviously, St. Rose is a danger.
That's a great question. And it's something actually that air modeling helps to show, which IMTT has not done since 2010, which we had on the slide. But it varies completely by chemical. Some things go far and some things don't. And it also depends on the prevailing wind direction and all kinds of things like that. So it's the radius. The frustrating answer of it depends. And so obviously the closer you are, the more you are impacted, but certainly these things travel. And one thing to flag with the CO2 pipeline that St. Charles Bay Fuels is proposing to install, the risk radius for that has not been modeled. And that is extremely, if there were a rupture with that pipeline in particular, it limit CO2 in its supercritical state, which is a potent asphyxiant and is lethal in high quantities. Also makes it hard for emergency responders to start their cars and for people who are trying to leave a place to start their cars because it replaces the oxygen in the air. And there has been no risk radius modeling at all in any of St. Charles Bean Fuels materials about that pipeline. They're saying it's going to be done by a third party, so they don't have to collect it. But it's necessary for the facility to operate. And that was something we argued a lot in those earlier comments, that if they are talking about this integral piece of the facility and passing it off to a third party, they're really putting folks at risk they don't have notice about bearing that risk.
Yeah. To supplement that risk discussion. Following up on the risk discussion, I did realize there's ammonia tanks proposed in this permit. Do those already exist? Okay, so that's right. And ammonia also, there's a risk offer for CO2 is 2 miles. And CO2 is pretty new, at least the volumes we're moving now in Louisiana. So there is draft legislation saying you have to put this CO2 stuff. The risk envelope is 2 miles because in Mississippi we had a rupture. People were laid out on the ground 1.5 miles away from the boat. So ammonia actually has a pretty similar risk profile. And well, the risk profile is 2 miles for CO2. The legislation contemplates don't want a homes or gathering centers 2,000 feet from. At least we get that. I think an ammonia might be the same way. The risk management envelope in the past for facilities like I know Nobel and CF Collinsville is 2.8 miles for ammonia tanks, because the ammonia tanks could also release an excruciating fluid that travels along the ground. I don't know if there's any, I know I seem to remember St. Charles has that 2,000-foot buffer ordinance, and I'm wondering if these are new ammonia storage facilities. Do they comply? Are those new yellow circles at the top left? Do those comply with? Are those 2,000 feet away from residents? You know that.
That's a great question, and we've been looking really closely at the site maps that the facility has released in its various applications to see if they're abiding by the 2,000-foot buffer zone. And we know that historically that's kind of a huge question that y'all have put to us. Are they abiding by the zoning laws for the parish and that 2,000-foot buffer zone? It looks like they are right on the line of the 2,000 feet, and so it's hard to say. In some of the drawings, there's a little bit of overlap with the edge of the tank and the 2,000-foot line. I think it's going to really be a question of what the final drawings look like in the final version of the application that goes for the permit. They've been changing their drawings a lot, and so it's hard to say. But they're certainly aware of the 2,000-foot buffer zone, and they are right up on it in the drawings that we see. So great point, Scott. And just really quickly on the issue of ammonia releases and risk to residents, you can take a look in Donaldsonville, the CF ammonia facility. There was an accident a few years ago where there was a large release of ammonia, and they had to evacuate an elementary school, I think over a mile and a half down the road. It's worth looking into what other Louisiana communities have dealt with ammonia facilities in their midst, and I think there's some good learning from what folks have been living through elsewhere too. Helpful examples there that we were looking at.
St. Charles Bay Fuels came to my homeowners association meeting. That's a couple of weeks ago, and someone asked a similar question, and the response was, "Well, even if it was a release, because ammonia is lighter or whatever than he wouldn't try." I told him that I worked at the ammonia plant. I was on the fire brigade. I had to go out on River Road and block traffic because the clouds traveled across the river. We had to call Chitter to make sure that they knew the direction that the cloud was moving in, so the evacuating van that was in that wee area. So that's them filled with that. I'm there. I saw the kind. It's not I've heard surmise. And they weren't really happy when I related that to our HOA, but that's factual.
Thank you for sharing. That's right for what is there anywhere for sure.
Can I just say something real quick? About the 2,000 feet. About the 2,000 feet buffer zone, I just had a question. And because I didn't want to spend this long. And I know full well I'm not 2,000 feet from those tanks. I was told that it was rainforest qualities.
Yes. So IMTT is grandfathered in. The existing infrastructure that's there has been grandfathered in because that facility was originally built in the 20s. And, the current iteration of the plant was really kind of built out in the 70s and 80s. And unfortunately, that infrastructure predates St. Charles's zoning laws. And so the existing infrastructure has been grandfathered in. But anything new that's going on site has to comply with that rule. And so that's why the new facility needs to provide either 2,000-foot pool, but the other.
What are your taste right now, right?
It's curious. Yes, I'm sure that some parts of IMTT is very far ahead, but they've just built things long. This finish line became Alpensville, and that they're very recent. Those are not the rainbow eggs. It does not affect how I feel applying permanent the separate complaint to DEQ about their building within from this dental area. Trip first when we close, both the rare back tools, all very right sample, have very by it. If they do these, if we spend 10 and then we permit, danger permit when you'll so certain there too about peak. Is that something that you all in the press?
That's a great question. So, if they are building new tanks without a permit, that is seriously concerning. And we have to learn more about that and have further conversations about that. But I also think that they have claimed that they are swapping out the use of some tanks. So some of those tanks, I think, used to hold vegetable oil and now are going to hold methanol, is what they were saying. And so um, there's been a real lack of clarity about what's new, what's being changed, something else. And so if we should talk afterwards about what you've been seeing and experiencing. I'd be happy to talk to you some more about.
Our grandfather, who grandfather IMTT in to put their tanks closer to the residents' homes?
Great question. What that means is just that it's the parish. The parish basically said because they were already there that they didn't have to be torn down. What grandfathering it means is just that we're gonna let the existing buildings that are non-compliant with our zoning codes stay, but new buildings have to comply.
Buildings or tanks?
Tanks, buildings, any kind of structure.
Any kind of structure. So I recently said, since Nelkinsville Freetown was established in 1880, that is this community that surrounds this church. IMTT City Services and IMTT paying affluence. So the community should be great grandfathered in. We should take that to. We should really take that to our package. What's up? Because they've encroached upon the residents, and I can't get my slide show to show that I wanted to show, but you can go on our website at refinedcommunity.org, refinedcommunityandpartnering.org, and you can use a QR code that's on your page. But the make it throw a ball, a baseball can hit those tanks from our homes and smell those chemicals coming into our bedrooms. How many can you smell chemicals in your house in your bedroom? Really? Oh, so that's more than our fault.
Second question, how many
Still, how many of you report it when you smell it? Very good. So we have to report it when you smell it. I need to ask the question. Now I'm so happy. Time is like, cause this crowd right past it. This park is all how science interactive. If you don't mind sharing which community you live in and where the swelling is chemicals, that's important. We're a bedboard stage. The bottle, once you've all sapling. Ribblewood Estate. Where people go, Bobby Speed. Okay. Yeah, another thing we're concerned about too is getting back to the bridge. Almost all in this area, including Preston Hall, Riverwood Estates, and Taboo, is all drained to that 4th Street Mountain South. That's going to be about by where Blue Holly tags have been. There's a lot of way to go. All right.
That is our pushing too. There is some water going to go, and we had an expert, actually, an entire expert hydrologist, who raised that issue and said the parish needs to know that they've invested a ton of money in that 4th Street pump station. It's part of the parish's master drainage plan, and the 4th Street pump station is close to dump right onto the proposed St. Carl's Bill site. And so how is that being reconciled? We asked that question in our comment, and we think that it's especially important for LDENR to consider that in the coastal use permit context, and for the Army Corps to consider that in their 404 wetlands permit. And so if you want to separately comment to those agencies, like I said before, there's no active notice and comment period for those agencies, but you can reach out and say, we live here, this is our lived experience, and we are worried that this is been lost by. Since our experts corroborating with those concerns. And
Now, you share with you, please.
What's the name of that? I say it's more Adri.
everybody here, we live on the same island. He lived the bad all the trash. He lived cultures and mills and class. We've all experienced these selves to begin with. As poor was there.
I'm so sorry. I see a little one here. She's your 104. 104. That means our children are getting these chemicals in their homes. And we have pregnant people who are getting these chemicals in their homes. Because what reason is because, so many levels. Because our local government said, okay, come closer. It's okay for you to build closer because you were involved in it. It's okay that you emit these chemicals, LDEQ, state agency that's supposedly protecting us. It's okay for you to emit these chemicals. EPA, where are you? Who's protecting Environmental Protection Agency, EPA? America, we are getting these chemicals in our homes, in our bodies, and it's making us sick. It is killing us. This is really sad. Oh, yeah, I had someone else who wanted to say something.
And it's you to me. Oh, Sherry, Hoa, Sables, Preston Howell. A part answer to the question of where this water goes when it's plain. Be kicking it all the way to the back of the 700 block. So you can play. We're getting everybody's water. It's say, and I watched it one night in the water came up. It was like a dripper. The water was running. Just about maybe 3 weeks ago, it came up in. And I called police so that they could come out and see what's going on. The police came out because there were residents is coming through the water. The water is coming up in our yards. I got water in my car with from the same stuff. The police came out and she said she reported to the Sector Spanish police and the parish that she put those parties out in front to keep people from coming into the subdivision. And once this water goes down, if this chemical is in the water, we get in our front yard to our backyard to whatever. Also, a convincible, she had rumor come out to her house, and they're saying that when they flush her house or whatever, the sludge that is coming from the chemical plant was in her pipe. Am I right?
Yeah, correct. Put it up. Boy, couple of boys, why did it pick it out?
What you feel about that? I know y'all probably give us a piece in the dictation with the expense. We had this conversation. I had this conversation with the IMTT as I wanted to know about the very thing, about the water situation. They got on the phone and they started making calls, and they blamed it on Bungie. We talked about the noise that was going on back there, and that something was going on. But we already know about that, right? Well, according to the officials at IMTT, they get on the phone, and because it was pretty. We asked the questions, okay, and they got on the phone. I think you were there, Ms. Dickerson. You were there when they got on the phone. They came back and said that it was coming from Bungie. That the banging and all that was coming from Bungie. They had taken responsibility. And the question was, like, is waiting out your street someday. So the noise sounds like it's coming from ITC. It's your backyard. It's simply in my backyard. But there was 40 punches out the back. The vibration came from my backyard.
So it was like when I'm piggyback on that from what she's saying, that I do what she's saying, come on, that whole lot of stuff. And I say this over and over again. I didn't I wasn't supposed to speak, but I just want to just put this out here. Say, hi, my name is Sarah Cook, Samuel Court Street. I'm part of Samuel's community. My voice, I love it. I could rap it years ago with me at this smell. Whenever I was part of that group. But the kind of pity that on what she's saying, and this is for everyone. She complaining about the noise. We all hear the noise. We complain about the noise bill, about all this complaining that we're doing. But reality, we're not doing anything because she complained and nobody else complain. I can complain. You're gonna have 2 or 3 people on it complain, which is a whole community. Say roads go from 1 to level 1. There's no way that it should be 4, 5, 6, 7. I would even give me 10 people. Just call it when it's a whole community to where we all are being affected by this. So we need to start getting on the phone. We need to start complaining because all it's gonna seem like she's a complaint. Nobody else is not saying anything. So we all have to, not just 4, 5, 10 people. We all have to do it, and all we can be not the same as one. As one. So when you smell things, go. Maybe about 3 weeks ago, I had somebody go and say, "Thank you, what I do or whatever. I smell this thing or whatever." Little firm called DEQ. They're gonna say somebody, "Oh, I wanted to come to my house," but don't call. Don't call. I'm not gonna make a complaint. Don't complain to me. Y'all dinner. So we just have to be more on complaining and then we can talk the talk, let's walk the walk.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
My husband wants to be to relay this message. Think it back, y'all, for what you're saying, Eric. But when you leave, our next video is gonna be next month. Whether you get the word out, I'm gonna let you know what day it's gonna be. So it's important for each of you to bring your neighbors and bring your family. So then we can speak with that one voice that Eric is speaking about, that they stood up 10 years ago saying that there's these chemicals coming into their homes. It's on YouTube. Let your family members know, your neighbors know these meetings are very important.
Post it on your homeowners association page, just like I do. Post it on your homeowners association page.
The more we come out in numbers, the more we will be noticed and recognized as having an issue. As Erica was saying, if it's a few people here, there, over there, reporting, we're not going to be taken seriously. We were taken seriously at that hearing.
Because we made it a community, because we made it a community effort. Originally, St. Charles Clean Fields didn't think that they would have the resistance that they had because they did not notify all of the different communities. We together as a group decided we were going to go out, we were going to walk the neighborhoods and pass pamphlets out, and people were really appalled at the fact that they didn't know that this thing was trying to happen. Because they were trying to make it as if it was only a St. Rose, Elkinville thing. Black people really, and they didn't have a box. So that's who they were banking that was going to be at that meeting. I actually called DDQ and told them there's way more public interest than you guys are aware of, so we need to have this big move to a larger facility. And the lady that was the director told me, we're not moving the meeting. We're going to have the meeting, have the place be set, and we're going to have it at the time we established. With everybody showing up there in mass as a community, they had to shut the meeting down because the fire marshal and everybody had to get them home. That's why it's important that everybody, this is not just an elderly meal thing. This is every community is going to be affected by this. They didn't want you to know that though. You know, you would have woke up one day and just said, wow, what does that smell? While you would be in your neighbor.
Well, why can't I breathe?
So make it a community effort. Put it out, put it to your homeowners associations. Let's, en masse get this thing right.
The curious Roseland, Louisiana, Friday a week ago, they had an explosion. Petroleum. One of my coworkers, I worked one of the jobs on Thursday. She needed to talk to me. I wanted her to come and share my testimony. She has a cabin in Roseland, 80, like right on the cusp. So she and her fiance went to check on the cabin when they heard about this. The same day it went there to check on that property, it rained. When it rained down petroleum.
Oh.
So his car was full of petroleum. Our hands, petroleum. The water around them. She said, oh, I hope it didn't mess up our water bill. This lady was banking on retiring there. There are farmers there. That's what some of us get our fresh produce when we go to the farmer's market. Now you don't want that. But I'm bringing that up because we're roses also. We're St. Rose. Just like Roseland had these citations. IMTT has had citations as well. They had fires at Rosa, so had a St. Rose. IMTT. So they will do something now. 10 years ago, 10 years later, it'll be all. 10 years from now, where are we going to be? Are we going to be where we are now worse? Because I'm going to just have 14 10s. They have, what's y'all like Green Lane that we had? Hot swamp land? That's a lot of space for industry, y'all. I guarantee they're looking at you.
We cannot afford, St. Rose, we cannot afford to let this happen. We have to stand together. Edward, wherever we stand, provided we fall. They don't care. It's all about now. They don't care about our health. They don't care about our children's health. They don't care about our children's health. It's all about now. And my children and grandchildren are worth more than $1 or whatever price they put on. All right. This is very, very dangerous, y'all. Yeah, that they're trying to put in our community. It is a ticking time. Just like what happened last week, that was a ticking time bomb. Just like what happened in 1985 at Clara Refinery, it got private. That was a ticking time bomb. It can have to be it. And now is the time for us to stop it. Yes. And we stop it must be standing together.
Were you a part of that?
85?
85?
Yes, that was my unit.
Another one. Let's walk to the post.
That was my unit that went up. And if I had been working day shift, I would not be standing here now. Because I wouldn't be. We lost 7 people. So, in that kind of something happen every time. IMTT, numbers say, is a lie. We're lying, they're not telling us the truth. They know what's in those things. And I want to add you, of course. Can OSHA be and they assist us, OSHA, occupational safety and health for G. And they assist us tonight. Cause I know back in 85, and 90, OSHA can come into a industrial facility and they can require that facility to give them an updated account of all the material that they have stored on their site and what they're shipping off their site and what's coming into the site. So is that an avenue that we can get OSHA involved?
That's a really great question. So OSHA sets workplace standards and it's designed to protect the employees at the site. And I know it's frustrating because a lot of y'all live as close as a lot of the employees, on the site every day. You're as close as those folks are. But I think that my understanding, and I'll say that I don't have a background in labor, workplace standards, but I think we had looked at this before as a potential angle, and I think that OSHA standards we need to be somebody working at IoT. That would need to be a kind inside. So this is somebody from outside the facility without the knowledge of what's going on and he has a workplace. I don't think you make it OSHA safe. It has to be about the conditions at the workplace. So first, for people who weren't there, but I think it's a great idea. And it's true that OSHA standards are, protect or equal on an 8-hour average, which is akin to what you experience if you're living right next door.
Oh, I did.
Buffers, what's your name?
Rebecca Hilburn, Destrehan. I'm saying this as the person who runs social media for Bayou Blockade. If y'all see a post about this, please share it. Please interact with it. If you see somebody being ugly in the comments, you don't have to engage with them, but say something positive, because the way a lot of these sites work is the more people engage and see these kind of posts, the more people it's going to show to. I know a lot of folks work. That's probably why they're not here today. That's why we record these, is for everybody who can't make it. So one of the ways you can help spread the word to neighbors you don't even know is by engaging with things that Miss Kimbrell posts, things that we post, things anybody who's involved in this and fighting this post, because it'll show it to more people in the community.
I also had a quick question for Tulane as well. We heard some people complaining about noise complaints. I know local ordinances don't protect individuals from industrial noise. St. Charles Parish just allows them to produce as much noise as they want, from what I understand. But does LDEQ care if we're being drowned out by industrial noise? I know it's an air permit, but like to what extent would it be helpful for us to tell the Army Corps of Engineer or LDENR or LDEQ that it's just loud and obnoxious all the time?
Sure, I guess. We talked about the public trust factors before. So aside from just air quality issues, they're supposed to look in general at adverse environmental effects in their approval or denial. And that would also play into when they're weighing whether whatever benefits there are outweigh the environmental costs. Noise would be one of those. So that is definitely something you should share, even though it's not necessarily relating to air quality. Those are important, but also really any negative effects that you're feeling would play into that. So absolutely still share that with them.
Denise Silburn from Tulane. One of the things that I've noticed throughout this whole process is that I'm not going to mention names, but people in government, in local government, get all their information from these industrial sites.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll bank their line fund. Everything they get will say absolutely true.
and they're counting on everybody to be. And I'm not talking about stupid. I think they're counting on us thinking, well, that doesn't apply to me. Or I'm not going to ask them a question, but something like that.
Or to just trust them point blank, though, was there
Trust what they say is that they're not going to do anything that hurts. And again, the bottom line is the dollar. It's all about how much money people that work at these plants, man, I feel sorry for them because they caught in a bad place because they might know all this stuff is true, but they're so worried about their jobs. They're being threatened. They're being told, be ready to walk, that they can't make a good decision about what's best for themselves, much less for the community. And I know that y'all's concern is St. Rose. But I keep saying what happens on this side of the river is up on the other side of the river. They're going to build an IMTT facility.
I've been so much true.
Right where that line, the gas line is supposed to come. And we're talking about 2,000 feet. I can tell you that's not 2,000 feet and there's an
Possibilities were tried by.
And the only thing that's going to for sure shut this down on that side of the river is if we can shut it down in this master. That's right. Because it's all connected.
If we can stop it at any point, we will stop it because it stops being attractive.
That's good. I go down River Road out of St. Rose every week. I go down River Road every week to Ama. And I know, and tell you where it's going to be. I can tell you because there's houses, there's freshwater diversion. It's going to be in between. Because that's what they own that wing. They bought that wing. We traced who bought the land and how are they affiliated with IMT? It's a shell company. And they work for IMTT.
It's a shell company.
We can't be ignorant. We can't put our bed underneath a rock. Right. Because it's not going to go away and it's under hope.
Yeah, so yeah, first,
Ladies, we have 2 more, and then we're gonna stop y'all. Because we have to be out.
Yeah.
A little after 7. We have to go. Meeting is from 5 to 7. Don't leave it. Go get us something to eat.
Okay, I just wanted to piggyback on what this lady is saying and what others have said before about how important this issue really is. It's bigger than St. Rose. Yes. It's bigger than St. Charles Parish. And we have to educate ourselves as much as possible on these issues and how they are interrelated. I had the opportunity to speak with some folk from St. James Parish. And as I start speaking with them, I learned more of Rise St. James. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Rise St. James or not, but they are very, very active. And they have been from quite a while. It's a lot I could say, but I know time won't allow. But if you are on Facebook, I would like for you to put in Rise St. James, and you can get all the information from a meeting that was held on last night. Former Vice President Al Gore was there, and he shared a lot of information on how big this issue is environmentally, from Exxon plant in Baton Rouge all the way to New Orleans along this river. The chemicals, and they are blowing downriver from Baton Rouge all the way to New Orleans. That's why it's designated as Cancer Cow. The documentation is already there. There are more people dying in the river parishes than anywhere else in the United States, and that's a fact. And we need to be aware of this, and we need to use our voice and our votes to do what we can. And this is a David and Goliath situation, and that was Vice President Gore's actual words. He said this is bigger than we even realize. He even said that he's been fighting this ever since he was in office, and he feels some days that he has failed because there's not enough people who understand the assignment and getting involved. So I know there's another person that needs to speak after me, but I just want to say, if you have Facebooks,
please go on to Rise St. James. Look at the meme that was killed last night at Shekinah Glory Church, and you will find out all this information that was shared about the river parish and how we all need to have a voice. You can't be silent. And that's one of the things he said is the worst thing we can do is be silent. He even said that there was a plant that was they were proposing it somewhere. And the question was asked, why are you proposing the plants in this particular area? He said, and the company's response was, because this is the place of least resistance. The people are not going to say anything. So they're going to put it there and they're going to kill them because they're not speaking out against it. So I just, let's reset. I employ everyone to get yourself informed. The knowledge is out there, and then be in the fighting sheet. Thank you, Mass Lady. And then we're going to do a closing prayer and get our food.
So going to be very brief. I just wanted to bring a little point. St. Bros is kind of unique because if we have to evacuate or we flood, what do we have? River Road. At River Road's block, we are trapped. That is our only way in and out. If we don't get that, we don't get anything. This is right on River Road. That's a problem.
Yeah.
As a hashtag, we'd like to acknowledge our pastor at Mount Zion Baptist Church. Would you do our closing prayer for us?